I don't think the game's over.
Welcome to another episode of Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckhalter. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports. Website is clockersports.com. The email address is clockersports@gmail.com. You can also follow the pod on Twitter and Facebook at 30spod. That's at the number 30spod. Man, we had just switched gears and started doing the NBA stuff first, but because of a very special event happening this weekend, we have to go back to the old way of doing things, the native way of doing things, and that's leading off with the NFL. That's because it's Super Bowl Sunday. Well, not today, but it's Super Bowl is coming up this coming Sunday, and the big game. We waited all year for this. You get the Chiefs, you get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First home game in Super Bowl history, like literal home game in Super Bowl history with the Buccaneers playing down there in Tampa. The Chiefs trying to go for the repeat. You got the old man, you got the young gun, you got everything that you could possibly want in a Super Bowl. Honestly, despite the fact that I don't know if I would say wanting, because I don't ever really want to see the Green Bay Packers do anything good. But I thought that the league wanted to see a Packers-Chiefs Super Bowl. I thought we were going to get a Packers-Chiefs Super Bowl, especially because of how I thought the Bucs would lose to the Saints. So, regardless, we're here now. And first thing that comes to my mind is I want to just off the bat say that the Chiefs are going to win, right? That would be my knee-jerk reaction. But then I think about it, and it's not really that deep of a thought. But you got backup tackles for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is dealing with a toe injury. Now, I'm sure in the 2 weeks that he's had in between his last action and this game, he'll be perfectly fine. But the lack of tackles is going to be an issue, despite the fact that you might have had practice time with him. They're not up to the caliber of the guys in front of them. But then you go to that Bucs side, and I talked about this a few episodes ago, how the Bucs have a tendency to start slow, which most teams that's not a problem against because you can, come back. But we saw in their week 12 matchup, the game the Chiefs won 27-24, that slow start is what really got the Buccaneers in trouble. That game was really 27-10. The Buccaneers got 14 fourth quarter points. The Chiefs didn't score in the fourth quarter at all. They got 3 in the third. Tampa Bay had to get 17 fourth quarter points, 21 fourth quarter points. Tampa Bay did all this scoring in the second half. And you could say, well, they made adjustments and they came back and they rallied. But 14 points in the fourth quarter is close to garbage time stats at that point. The other thing about it is Kansas City converted to get a first down in order to kneel and seal the game. So this wasn't as close as it seems, despite the 3-point margin. Now, that being said, Tampa Bay's defense is where I think they're going to have to roll the dice a little bit. Now, you don't want to blitz Patrick Mahomes. He's the best against the blitz. But you don't want those corners in coverage. Now, I've heard some people say that they think that Sean Murphy-Bunting, who I'm a fan of, can hang with Tyreek Hill. We're going to stop that right there in its tracks. That's not possible. And that's not a knock on Sean Murphy-Bunting. That's just talking about the elite. And I mean a new definition of the term, because if he's elite, then there can't be anybody else right now who's elite. Tyreek Hill and his speed. Murphy-Bunting's not keeping up with that. I like the player, but he's not keeping up with that, especially if Patrick Mahomes is able to buy himself some time. I don't think he'll have a lot of time in the pocket, and that's where Tampa Bay's defense is actually going to be able to make its hay. On the edges, Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul had good seasons. They're going to have to contain and get after this dude who has been a magician. Now, you could see Kansas City go to a quick passing game. Travis Kelce's a big part of what they do anyway. They got a lot of weapons. Not DeMarcus Robinson. Mecole Hardman, getting Sammy Watkins back. Clyde Edwards-Helaire I think he's been okay. A lot of people have been disappointed in him as a rookie. He's still a rookie. I don't understand all of that. But the thing here is that it's going to be about being able to get to Mahomes. can the Buccaneers get Mahomes off his spot, uncomfortable and off rhythm? And even still, all of those things don't really matter if you can't either deflect the pass and that's bare minimum, or get him down for a sack. And I took a bet today that it's the Buccaneers, and I think that it's a solid bet. I got the Bucs plus the points. They got to win by 3. I think it'll be at least a touchdown margin. I could see it being double digits. Whoever wins this game. I think what it will come down to ultimately, though, regardless of who wins, is going to be not necessarily the team that strikes first, but who avoids that lull, right? That mid-game lull. For Tampa Bay, like I just told you, they start slow, but they tend to finish strong, and they get rolling, especially if it's Brady. You know, he's been there, done that in all those situations. You saw the meme floating around of him on the sideline with his head down. That's supposed to be the moment that you watch out because he's about to go off. But with Mahomes, and we heard about it throughout the regular season, they weren't beating teams left and right. They were one-scoring teams. And then in the playoffs, it seems like they've kind of flipped the switch. Well, Tampa Bay's got a pretty good defense. Better than any that Kansas City's faced up to this point. So, can you afford to have those lulls on your own when you're going to have a few drives that are stalled out by a really good defense? And so I won't say that I'm overly confident in that Buccaneers, but I like it. I'm not going to change it. I'll take the Bucs in this game. Again, also, I have the added benefit of having a guy who's been there 10 times and has won 6 of them going for number 7. Hey, that'll add a little bit to your comfort. The other X factor for Tampa Bay is going to be, can they find that balance? They have a tendency to just be a team that's just calling plays, right? They're just out there running stuff, chucking down the field, oddball runs. Balance is going to be important for them. Again, I think their defense is good, but I think that speed kills, especially in the way that the rules are set up now in the NFL. So if you allow Mahomes to have time, Hill or any of those guys to get free releases, Travis Kelce to find the soft spot in the zone, you're going to have problems all day no matter what kind of talent you have in that back end. And they're missing, or they have their 2 safeties are banged up too, Tampa Bay's. So stepping out on a bit of a limb here, But again, it's a home team. There's going to be fans. It's Brady. Although I can't lie, part of me does want to see the official passing of the torch. That would be cool, and maybe maybe that's what happens. But in the situation that was presented to me early, I could not pass on just taking the Buccaneers with those points. It just seems like it's a reasonable suspicion. Now, that being said, we know what Andy Reid does coming off of extended rest, and he's got 2 weeks now to prepare for a Bucs team like that. I told you can like Kansas City, but start slow, get in their own way, and doesn't always play up to their talent levels. It's gonna be a really interesting match. I can't wait to watch it. It's gonna be a bunch of interesting commercials. Won't be any Pepsi or Budweiser commercial for the first time in I think 37 years. Wow. Also, The Weeknd is performing the halftime show. I just read that he is planning on having 0 special guests during his halftime performance, and I was gonna say, wow, that's some bold move, and then I thought about who I was talking about in The Weeknd, and I said, no, nope, that's exactly what I would imagine he would do, is keep the stage all to himself for the 30 whatever minutes he gets up there to do his thing. Like, a big fan of his music, but that was a funny thing to just, okay, he's not gonna have anybody. Okay, you saw the report of him spending $7 million. I believe they pay anyway to perform, or they, you gotta whatever. They're not getting paid, but set by yourself, the whole set. That's a bold choice, Francis. We'll see how it pays off. Again, he's a very talented entertainer. That's a wild one. That's a long time. For a base that's not there for that. That's not the reason why they're tuning in. I mean, I guess there's some. I don't know. Ooh, interesting. That's not the only thing that come out of Super Bowl week, though. We're not just talking about the game here. We had some interesting conversation. Oh, my prediction. Final score will be, 31-27, 34-27 Tampa Bay. How about that? 34-27 Tampa Bay. So the rest of the we've had media days and conversations that have happened. Now we kind of skipped around the Matthew Stafford trade to Los Angeles between last episode and this one. And first and foremost, let me say I think this is a great trade for Los Angeles in terms of what they brought in. I think Stafford is that much of an upgrade over Goff and what Los Angeles has. The compensation is a bit much, but the Rams haven't had a first-round pick in 8 years, and they were just in the Super Bowl not too long ago. So, I mean, I guess they figured that part out. Still, though, 8 years until it will have been 8 years between first-round picks. And Jared Goff was the last one. Now, it's interesting that your last pick was Jared Goff and you've not picked since. That would scare you off, I guess, right? Because now you'd have to make this gigantic move here with bringing in Matthew Stafford. I've seen a lot of reports on Stafford and how he's not that good and he hasn't won. And I'm hearing this is from very smart football minds. And I stop and I think to myself, that's interesting because I've seen these same people for other quarterbacks say that wins are team sport or team stats. That's how I always perceived it to be. So I'm not sure exactly where people are expecting Matt Stafford to rank in the hierarchy, right? Oh, it's only so many Super Bowls to be won. We just saw a dynasty in Brady and the Patriots. Mahomes and the Chiefs look like they might be on the way. We've had the oddballs here and there, but at no point during that time did Matthew Stafford's Detroit Lions pop up as a Super Bowl contender. At no point in time was Matthew Stafford viewed as the problem or a roadblock to said Super Bowl berth or contention. So I get not wanting to heap praise upon him, but the tearing down and saying that he couldn't get it done is interesting after we've seen this organization fail so many players before him. So many. It's just an interesting one. I feel the same way about Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a player that I think in the right system would thrive. I hope he ends up in Chicago, and that's not what I'm saying. So I actually am a fan of his game. It can be too conservative at times, but I think you work that in with the play calling. I think what John Gruden wants is not what Derek Carr does best. That's why I think he would fit here well with the Bears. He's very good with the short game, passing in rhythm, leading the receiver, throwing him open, protects the football. I feel the same way about him in that you're looking at it in a very specific situation, one in which we have some data points on that would lead us to believe it's a situation, not the player, and yet and still, here we are. Also, let's not act like he's not going to a great situation in Los Angeles. Stafford, that is, because Goff got the crap into this one. You go from L.A. to Detroit. Now, granted, he could pull the Blake Griffin and just take the private jetter back to L.A. after every game. That could be a little bit difficult with practice and whatnot, but whatever. That was a report of Griffin. Anyway, it's just interesting to see when you can tell with people who they like and don't like with the things that they say about certain court. Again, I'm not saying that Stafford's out here going to be, Steve Young with the Niners. That's not what's happening. But what's going to happen, I think, is you're going to see Stafford for what he is, a talented quarterback that was toiling away in a piss-poor organization. And trust me, I know, not only am I a fan of a piss-poor organization, but I saw the Lions play against that same team twice a year for my entire life. That was a crap situation. They gave him crap. Never had a deep crap. Calvin Johnson, he's had like one receiver every year that you can rely on. Crap. No running game to speak. Crap. That is crap. Derek Carr's starting to get a running game. Still haven't given him a lot of weapons. Defense isn't good either. But like crap. It's crap. It's crap. You can't put crap around them and expect them to uplift that. Now, what's wilder is that they've still put out the stats and we get the slander. Like you literally have the delineation here between team and individual, and nope, not good. So I don't think he's going to be a world beater, but I think in that situation, with what he can do, Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams are a match made in heaven. Other talks though about Stafford, Teddy Bruschi, I always mess that up. Formerly of the New England Patriots, current NFL analyst for ESPN, was on the record on with Christian Fauria, another former Patriots player, and radio out in Boston, and said that Matthew Stafford isn't tough enough to play for the Patriots. This assertion came about because Stafford reportedly said that he did not want to be traded to the Patriots. He said he could trade me anywhere except for New England. You remember that his former coach was Matt Patricia, who was fired, disliked by a lot of players. Patricia is now back in New England where he came from. So not only did Stafford get a taste of the Patriot way, the dude that he got the taste from is at the spot that he just said he didn't want to go to. It makes perfect sense. Still, Bruschi took umbrage with this and decided to lay into Stafford and said that he just wasn't tough enough, doesn't seem like a tough guy, and he couldn't take the mental beating, basically, that Tom Brady took. Like, he went on a tangent that clearly was motivated by personal affinity for the organization and not just being objective. That's fine. Seemed a little weird because he, like, Matthew Stafford playing with a broken back. I shared a clip on my Twitter of Stafford getting just lit up by a defender a few years back. And I mean, he looked dead. He was on the ground, not moving. Gets escorted to the sideline, lays out. They take a time. I says, I can get back in, right? Because they took a time. That's a play. I can get in. Gets back up, throws a game-winning touchdown, and has to get helped off. Like, dude, Matthew Stafford, first of all, he lived in Detroit. He played for the Detroit Lions. That's tough, like a +10 right there. But then to actually see him play, like, oh, man, that was a bad look. Did not appreciate that one. Now, that wasn't even the most interesting tidbits to come out. The most interesting, in my opinion, were you've had people jumping on the Antonio Brown stuff, which is interesting because Chad Wheeler still exists and currently, and yeah, whatever. There was a Sports Illustrated piece about Antonio Brown still not getting it because in his presser, 25 minutes, he did not show enough contrition. In this same Sports Illustrated piece, they referenced times where Antonio Brown has expressed remorse, said that he owes people an apology. They apparently weren't satisfied with him not doing the apology publicly. And yet and still there's the entire piece and this is being pushed that he just doesn't get it because he kept talking about himself as though he was a victim. And I get not liking Antonio Brown. I don't like Antonio Brown. But I felt like this one was a hit piece on somebody that you don't like, as opposed to being, again, objective here. Did he bring everything upon himself? Hell yeah. That is pretty much clear cut. I don't know if I took victim away from what he was saying, but I definitely took a pointed message, a crafted message, in which he did not want to specifically address the assaults and the throwing stuff off the balcony and the goofy crap. He was all of that dumb stuff he was doing. He didn't want to address that specifically. He wanted to address his redemption, and that part was making people upset. Now, I would agree with you had, again, you not in that same piece pointed out several times how he has already expressed remorse and said that he was wrong. Like, Chad Wheeler still exists. Maybe Sports Illustrated doesn't get it. Maybe it's people who are reacting that way that don't get it. I'm not saying you forgive him. I'm not saying that he's like I said, I just told you, I don't think he's a good person. But this piece definitely seemed like an angry person about Antonio Brown just writing a piece about, he doesn't get it, but he's talked about the things that you wish he'd have done there. And I think I understand the baseline. You had the biggest platform that you're gonna have, and you haven't shown contrition. But for a good stretch, he was the biggest show in the NFL, and whatever he did was mainstream. And again, as you wrote, he came out and said he was wrong, with apologies. I don't get it. Did not like that one. That one was a weird one. The other thing that came out, though, came from the commissioner himself. Roger Goodell dropped 2 nuggets on us that I think are just earth-shattering and kind of like, whoa, like Weebay meme type or Weebay GIF type of moments. First one, he says that Tom Brady is probably the greatest player in the history of the game. Whoa! Active commissioner here talking about a player who's probably on his closer, not probably, clearly close to the end in the beginning, but damn, that is pretty substantial praise for an active player by the acting commissioner, by the current commissioner of the NFL. I'm not saying it's out of pocket. It just seems a little wild to heap that level of, again, praise on a player that is currently in the game. Now, it can be thrown out there that maybe this is just an overcorrection for, well, maybe not overcorrection, but in Goodell's mind, compensation for the Deflategate thing, says that they're still good. I don't think that really matters. I don't think they don't have to be friends. It doesn't matter. That's not important. That's never been important to me. What is important, though, is that he called this man probably the great. I would tend to agree. And you could talk about individual talent. You could say that somebody else is better than him individually. It's a team sport, and he's winning it more than anybody else because they play for championships. I don't care what else you talk about. Not saying that's the end-all, be-all, but that definitely is a large chunk because that's the purpose that this group has assembled, is to go out there and try to win this trophy, this pennant, whatever. That's why they did it. So he's done it more than anybody else. I don't know where do you go with that? So I agree. Just I was taken aback. The other part that he dropped that was a bit surprising was he said that Colin Kaepernick deserves our recognition and appreciation. I can't even say it because I want to crack up in laughter, just due to the coordinated effort to keep him away from the game of football, or the NFL's version of the game of football, coming from Roger Goodell, no less. We've seen very little come of that partnership with Jay-Z. Disappointing because I'm a huge Jay-Z fan too. That's not a good look at all. But deserves our recognition and appreciation. He deserves your apology. I think that's as far as I would go as far as deserving. Other than that, though, you could say that one. That was one that just, again, that was akin to the Antonio Brown piece, where it just felt like you were doing something, trying to do something, and he probably could have kept that one because it just doesn't seem genuine and it doesn't seem to be necessary. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense. Point blank, period. So that's Super Bowl Sunday is going to be a great game. Can't wait. Again, I think that we're going to see Tampa Bay 34, Chiefs 27. I just think that the Bucs, Brady's going to take it to another level, and the Chiefs playing with that fire of turning it on and off might come back to bite them, especially if you have an injury. You already got the tackles are banged up. Everybody else is healthy. Tackles banged up. They almost lost people to COVID, to getting haircuts. That didn't happen. Just think it ends up being that the Buccaneers find a way to finish it out. Tom Brady gets number 7, puts himself up there as Goaty of goats. Goaty McGoaterson himself. But that's a conversation for another day. Switching gears over to the NBA. We have to talk about the early MVP looks, and I wrote an article for Clocker Sports. Be sure to check that out. Looking at the MVP candidates, the top 4, and then the field, I got KD is my number 1 right now. The man is putting up incredible numbers, coming off an Achilles injury, no less. And at the time, it's worded a little bit funny, but at the time, he was the Nets were the 2 seed. They finished the night by the time I published it at the 3 seed, so I had to make him 3 to make it make sense. But the numbers he's putting up, right? He's second in the league in scoring behind Brad Beal, who's out here just going bananas, but losing a ton, which is why he doesn't get any consideration. He's efficient, and he's raised the profile of the Nets from a 5th seed to, again, at the time it was a 2 seed when I wrote it. Number 2 is LeBron. At number 3, I have Joel Embiid. At number 4, I have Nikola Jokic. The field, you could read the rest, and I'm not going to tell you exactly why, but here's why I have LeBron number 2 and KD number 1. You could make the very legitimate case LeBron has less help than KD has. I would say Harden just got there recently. They started off in the skids. You've seen Kyrie go MIA for a little bit there. You've seen the all the noise and the whatever. Meanwhile, KD's just out there doing KD. Meanwhile, Brooklyn is winning games again. Meanwhile, they're looking like the favorite to come out of the East. Not saying LeBron and them aren't doing things, but LeBron's going to suffer from fatigue no matter what. He's always going to have an uphill climb because people are just tired of seeing him winning. And that's not saying they shouldn't vote for him. That's literally the explanation of it. It's like the Jordan effect. You just get tired of seeing the same person all the time. It's why, despite him having not as good a year as he's had, but still a really good year on the team that's doing really well right now in the East, Giannis is not getting nearly the conversation that he was getting the previous 2 years. You're just not going to see it. But you've seen for KD, like I said, Kyrie went MIA. Harden just got there. Harden playing some of the worst defense in the league, by certain metrics. KD is my favorite right now. And hopefully that stays going, but you got to read the rest to see there are other reasons why I think the rest of those guys need to do something to up their chance, or what chance I think they do have. Embiid is my favorite case because could be the most dominant player in the league when he's locked in, and he's locked in right now. But the lack of wins when Ben Simmons is not available is quite obvious, or quite the deficiency for him in his game, because it just seems like while he might be the big scorer, he's not the straw that stirs the drink, and that's, I think, ultimately what's going to be his shortcoming, his downfall when it comes down to it in this situation. Got to take a real quick victory lap about Tyrese Haliburton, a player that I stumped for my Chicago Bulls to take in the draft this season. Now, first of all, let me say I am very happy with Pat Williams, who they took out of Florida State. Kid I did not know nearly enough about to feel as strongly as I did, but that was, again, and I said at the time, a reaction to not getting the guys that I did want more than it was to getting Williams in their stead. Now, Haliburton is out there playing for the Sacramento Kings, so bless his heart. Averaging 11 points and 5 assists, 3, almost 4 rebounds, and over a steal per game. Now, here's the thing, though. He's averaging fewer than 2 turnovers per game. And if you've looked at him play, his feel for the game, his shot-making ability, his defense have all been everything that I wrote about in that article for him being a bullseye target for the Chicago Bulls way back when. I think that what makes it stand out even more is the Bulls could use everything that we've seen him bring so far. Again, this is not knocking Pat Williams. This is more saying, and what I said at the time, that if it wasn't going to be one of the top guys, that it should have been Haliburton, because he fit so many needs and would have transitioned so well. He was like a combination of Zach and Satoransky, much more Satoransky than Levine, but he could combine the two. And if you've just seen, I've tweeted out a metric the other day where he was like the perfect blend, the best blend of defense and scoring added amongst rookies. And again, follow me on Twitter at Josh G. Buck. He's everything that I thought. And dude, the amount of replies that I got not wanting him because he was an Iowa State guy here in Chicago, which I totally get, are hilarious, especially now. But dang it, this is the semi-victory lap I had to take, because you don't really get too many of them, but this one was one that I was spot on about, and a kid whose game I fell in love with the moment I saw it, and he's doing the exact same stuff in the NBA right now. So that's a story that you love to see, especially from a rookie, no less. The real quick on this one, what's going on with the New Orleans Pelicans, Dallas Mavericks, and Miami Heat? Those are 3 teams that I thought would be a lot better, and they're not. Pelicans are sitting down at dude, 14th in the East right now, or in the West right now. And you got the Miami Heat at 13th in the East. Now, Miami's dealt with a lot of COVID issues. Jimmy Butler's been gone. New Orleans and Dallas has not had Kristaps Porzingis. New Orleans is the biggest question here, but I think you're seeing a roster that was put together kind of on the fly and in shifts. And as I've talked about here with the Bulls, that don't work. You have to construct a roster with a clear plan, and they just got their centerpiece last year, and he doesn't fit with but one person in Lonzo. And how much does he fit if they're not giving you the kind of knockdown shooting that you need around Zion? So, hey, we were supposed to see you guys be up there. Real quick, too, Chris Paul loves to just raise teams to that mid-level in the West. He's got the Phoenix Suns sitting at 6 right now. Just wanted to point that out. You also have the Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors sitting right outside of the playoff field behind the San Antonio Spurs. Here's the thing about those three teams. Well, really the Golden State and San Antonio. Houston is kind of a transitioning team, so they're surprised just in that regard. Golden State has the talent. They don't have the chemistry. They don't have Clay. So, I guess they don't have the talent. San Antonio is just old. They're going to win more games than they should, but they're just not good enough anymore. And Pop looks like a hippie right now. Like Pop is channeling his inner Don Nelly right now. I love it. Pop looks like he's gonna drop some kind of quotable from Cheech and Chong before he rips one and just surfs off or gravity boards off into the sunset. But those three teams, and I got way sidetracked on this. That's why I try to say briefly. Those three teams are very disappointing. Luka Doncic, and I mentioned him in the MVP article for Clocker Sports. Be sure to check that out. Has not been able to elevate that team. Jimmy's been gone. Pels are just confusing. I think it's just a combination of being young and being a team that's not really a group. And Stan Van Gundy's coaching. When you sit out of the league for as many years as he did, stands to reason that you might not, and it wasn't that long. Let me not act like he's been gone for decades. He was just with the Pistons not that long ago. So, just saying. It's you gotta modernize. That's the same thing I think about John Gruden. Just not to jump too far back, but the Derek Carr thing with Gruden. When you sit out for so long, certain key elements to your scheme become antiquated, and if you don't address them and get rid of them or update them, you get passed by. I think that's what you see a lot of times with Stan down there in New Orleans. Jared Dudley used the royal we in his new book when discussing how he and the other Lakers took umbrage with Paul George placing himself amongst LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And his reasoning was Paul George hadn't won anything. And immediately, aside from the douchiness of saying we, and I'll talk about that in a second, he said that George wasn't a winner. But before last year, AD wasn't a winner either. And so, clearly, that plus the extremely douchey we didn't like that you getting offended for another grown man now? That I understand Jared Dudley's role on a team as a veteran with some glue qualities, and he'll say the stuff to distract from people. Whatever. That's a we. Come on, fam. We took really in the book. That's what you went into the. Okay, all right, whatever, whatever floats your boat, fam. Ty Lue got wind of this and laughed it off too because it's just absolutely ridiculous. First of all, how did Jared Dudley get a book deal? I get it. ACC Player of the Year. He's had a damn near 20-year run in the NBA. But come on, fam. We. What do you mean? Oh my god, De'Aaron Fox, back to the Kings. De'Aaron Fox ripped playing the All-Star game amid coronavirus, said it's really responsible and things of that nature. I would agree, except for you're playing games anyway. What's one more game? If you're worried that you're going to have players getting infected, there's going to be substantial testing, and during the break, players are going to be traveling. So here's the thing about that. here's my biggest thing. He's talking about the game, but players can travel anyway. So if you're not in the game, guess what you're going to be doing anyway? Traveling. Nobody's going to be staying. It's going to be very little sitting still because I think we're past that point at this point, especially with people of means. And if that's not what these players are, then I don't know. I'm not sure that you can call it anything other than that. So you can be upset. Now, again, I agree with him about there being some questions to it, but there's only so much you can say because you can't not play them, or you can't justify playing your other games then. And again, you're already doing that, so we're like well past that point. Shouts out to Fred VanVleet. The other night dropped 54 points. His new career high, third most points scored this season. Most threes made this season. He had 11 of them. He went 11 to 14 from the 3-point line, 99 from the free throw line. Did I say 14 from the free? Whatever. Try that one more time. He went 11 to 14 from 3, 99 from the free throw line. And he has the most points scored by a Raptors player and the most points scored by an undrafted player. Shouts out to Rockford's own Fred VanVleet. All-star voting, early returns, and you had fan votes. You got Zach LaVine, led off with the Bulls have to, sitting at 5th right now amongst guards in the East. It's pretty standard. KD's leading all vote getters at this point. MVP. LeBron's number 2, followed by Steph, and then Giannis and Jokic. And then we just go down from there. Luka. I think I'm skipping around. Joel Embiid. No, yeah, Joel Embiid above Jokic. Yeah, so anyway, the top is pretty much the list, man. It's the MVP race. You got KD, LeBron, and then they go Giannis. I didn't even have him on my MVP watch list. And then they go Joel, and then it goes to Nikola Jokic, and then Luka. Oh, I'm sorry, Steph. I'm passing Steph up like crazy. Steph should get some MVP love. I should have put that in there. Early fan votes don't really mean much. We know how the fan votes kind of tend to be meh. And it's early still. But I do like Zach getting some early love. Hopefully he can boost that resume. The Bulls got to get some wins, man. If they're going to make him an all-star like they want to do, get some wins. Boost that trade value, and you're probably going to have to move him this offseason because you're not going to pay him, and he's going to want a big deal, but not here. Speaking of Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, they are the first centers to win NBA Players of the Month together since Dwight Howard and Yao Ming back in November of 2006. That courtesy of StatMuse. Look, I kudos to them. Don't think either one of them will win MVP. Both of them have cases, and both of them have some things that are bothering that case that I mentioned in the article that you're going to have to read. Also, be on the lookout coming out from Last Word on Pro Football this week. An article breaking down the Bears quarterback options and the deja vu of this quarterback carousel cycle. I don't really like it. I'm kind of antsy on it. There's some guys that I like, but even the fact that we're having this conversation again concerns me. So be on the lookout for that one. Go ahead and read that article on Clocker Sports on the MVP race. Also, be sure to check out the recent one I talked about with the running backs going in circles, the NFL running in circles with running backs and how to keep giving out these big contracts despite the running backs not living up to it. There will also be, there will also be a article for the Chicago Bulls coming out for Pivot Ain't Easy, where I discuss the issues amongst the Bulls' big men trio of Daniel Gafford, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter, not in that order, obviously, and why the Bulls have their biggest issue in those 3 players. So check out all those things. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshyBuck, Facebook page Clocker Sports, website clockersports.com, email address clockersports@gmail.com. Follow the pod on Facebook and Twitter at 30spod. That's going to do it for this episode, man. Until the very next time, you already know what it is.